I never imagined a single dare could completely turn my world upside down. It all started with a wedding. My best friend's sister, Emily, was getting married, and the whole family was buzzing with excitement. I was just Ryan back then, average in every way, quietly living my life, blending into the background. Never really noticed. I was the kind of person people thought of as dependable, maybe a little shy, nothing extraordinary. But that wedding changed everything. It began innocently enough. I had been teasing Emily about how boring weddings were, and she laughed, a bright, mischievous smile that made my chest tighten for reasons I didn't want to admit. She dared me, jokingly. I bet you couldn't even pull off being a bride for one day. I mean, come on, Ryan. You'd look ridiculous. Everyone laughed, assuming I would just blush and dismiss it. But something inside me shifted at that moment. Something daring, reckless, curious. My heart started beating faster at the thought. Not because I wanted to humiliate myself, but because I wondered what it would feel like to be someone else, someone admired, someone beautiful. The day of the rehearsal, Emily pulled me aside. "I'm serious, Ryan," she whispered, her eyes glinting with amusement and curiosity. "If you really do this, I'll owe you forever. Are you brave enough?" I nodded, my stomach twisting. I didn't fully know why I said yes. Was it excitement? Was it fear? Was it some hidden desire I had buried for years? I wasn't sure. All I knew was that I couldn't back down now. We started with the basics. Emily's best friend, Claire, helped me pick the dress, a flowing ivory gown, delicate lace, the kind that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. I'd never imagined seeing myself in something so feminine. And then came the makeup. I sat nervously as Claire transformed my face with brushes, powders, and colors I didn't even know existed. I watched in the mirror as my own reflection shifted into someone unrecognizable, yet strangely right. My hair, curled and pinned, framed a face that was softer, lighter, somehow freer. I barely recognized myself, and yet a spark ignited in me that I hadn't felt in years. The moment came to step into the wedding hall. Emily's fiancé, Michael, was busy greeting guests, and no one expected me to appear yet. When I walked in, the room went silent for a heartbeat. Then, laughter erupted, but it wasn't cruel. It was astonished, delighted laughter. Everyone turned to look, and for the first time, I felt seen not as Ryan, the quiet guy who fades into the background, but as someone who could command attention, someone who could embody charm, elegance, and beauty. The dress clung in all the right places. The makeup highlighted features I had never considered attractive, and the confidence that I didn't know I possessed started to rise inside me. Emily burst out laughing, clapping her hands. "I can't believe it. You actually did it. You look amazing." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Amazing. I had never been called that before. Not by friends, not by anyone. My heart swelled, but fear whispered in the back of my mind, what if this goes too far? What if everyone finds out I'm just pretending? The ceremony rehearsal continued, and I found myself slipping into the role. I walked gracefully, smiled genuinely, laughed when people complimented me, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was acting. I felt like me, or at least a truer version of me that I had hidden away for far too long. Emily whispered, "You're stealing my thunder, and maybe everyone's hearts too." I laughed nervously, feeling a mix of exhilaration and terror. This was a dangerous game, and yet I couldn't stop. Then came the real twist. Emily's fiancé, Michael, had to step away for a phone call, leaving the rehearsal for the ceremony alone. And Emily, in a teasing, daring tone, said, "Well, Ryan, looks like you might have to stand in for me for a few minutes. Can you handle it?" I froze. Stand in for the bride? Me? The entire hall? My pulse raced. But something inside me said yes. Take the leap. Embrace it fully. And I did. I walked to the front, took the bouquet, and positioned myself just as the bride would. Everyone watched, some giggling, some shocked, but I felt unstoppable. Minutes passed, and a strange, electric tension hung in the air. Emily whispered, "Don't let anyone see it as a joke. Be her. Be yourself as her." And I did. I became her not just in appearance, but in presence, in energy, in poise. I smiled, I laughed, I moved with elegance I didn't know I had. I caught glimpses of faces, friends, relatives' eyes widening, jaws dropping, a mixture of amusement and genuine admiration. My chest tightened, my heart beat wild, because for the first time, I realized how intoxicating it felt to be seen in this way. The night deepened, and the dare evolved into something more intense. Emily's mother, Mrs. Parker, approached me with a warm smile. "Ryan, you look incredible. If Michael didn't know better, he'd think you were the bride herself." I swallowed hard, a mix of pride and anxiety coursing through me. Pride because I had pulled it off. Anxiety because what if this was more than just a game? What if I liked it too much? And then came Michael, returning unexpectedly. He froze at the entrance, eyes wide. He walked closer, trying to hide a grin. What's going on here?" he asked, his voice catching slightly. I straightened, smiled, and said, "Just practicing for the rehearsal, Michael." Emily asked me to stand in. He laughed, nervously at first, then genuinely. "Well, you make a convincing bride." Something in his tone lingered longer than it should have, a look in his eyes that made my stomach churn. Convincing not just a bride, but convincing someone entirely. Hours passed, and I continued the role, each movement, each glance, each gesture feeding a growing realization inside me. This was more than a dare. This was a revelation. I wasn't just pretending anymore. I felt alive, seen, desired, in a way I had never experienced. And Emily, ever playful, whispered occasionally, "You look better than I ever could. Maybe I should let you be the bride for real." I laughed, but my heart wasn't entirely in the joke. By the end of the night, when the real bride and groom took their positions, everyone expected me to step back into my old self. But I hesitated. I realized I didn't want to. Something had shifted permanently inside me. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, mental, deeply personal. I had discovered a version of myself I had suppressed for too long. A version that was confident, radiant, unapologetically feminine, and daring. A version that people could admire, not just tolerate. The days following the wedding were surreal. Friends whispered, teased, laughed, but also admired. Emily kept nudging me. "Ryan, or should I say, Raina now? You really stunned everyone." I laughed nervously, realizing she wasn't entirely joking. My reflection in the mirror became a source of fascination rather than shame. Every brush stroke, every curl of hair, every choice of dress felt like reclaiming a part of myself I didn't know existed. I had stepped into someone else's world for a dare, but I had emerged in my own world, fully alive. And yet, it wasn't without struggle. Some days, I wondered if I had gone too far. Could I ever return to the quiet, unnoticed life I had before? Could I tell anyone? Or would they laugh, misunderstand, reject me? Every step outside, every compliment, every curious glance carried a weight of suspense. I was living a secret, a thrilling, terrifying secret that made life simultaneously brighter and more precarious. Months passed, and the dare had a ripple effect I could never have imagined. I began experimenting, cautiously at first, with my identity, my appearance, my style. Friends started noticing subtle changes in confidence, in demeanor, in energy. I started to embrace the person I had glimpsed during that wedding, someone bold, radiant, unafraid, authentic. And the more I embraced it, the more natural it felt. The dare had unlocked something profound, a permission to explore who I truly was. I began attending social gatherings, sometimes fully dressed as Raina, sometimes partially experimenting, always learning, always growing. Each time, the fear was present, but it was accompanied by an exhilarating sense of authenticity. For the first time in my life, I wasn't performing for others, I was performing for myself, discovering my own courage, owning my own transformation. And then came the defining moment. Emily's family invited me to another wedding at distant cousins. This time, no dare was involved. No teasing, no jokes. I walked into the hall, dressed fully as Reina, and felt a wave of liberation wash over me. People gasped, murmured, smiled, complimented. But for the first time, it didn't matter what anyone thought. I was myself. I was radiant. I was confident. I had transformed not just my appearance, but my entire sense of identity. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Sometimes, the smallest dare, the slightest challenge, can open a door to a life you never imagined. A life that was always meant to be yours, waiting for the courage to step through. Looking back, I can see it clearly now. One wedding dare made me her instead of him, but in doing so, it made me fully, unmistakably alive. And I wouldn't trade that moment for anything. It wasn't just a dare. It was a revelation, a transformation, a discovery of courage, identity, and unapologetic authenticity. I had stepped into someone else's shoes, and in doing so, I had finally found my own. And that is how I became Reina, not just for a night, not just for a dare, but for life. I thought I had prepared myself for everything that night, but nothing could have readied me for the aftermath. Walking out of that wedding hall, still in the dress, still in makeup, I felt a mixture of euphoria and terror. Every step I took, the air felt heavier yet electric, as if the world had suddenly tilted, and I was on a different plane, one that no one else fully understood. My reflection in the taxi mirror was the last thing I saw before heading home. Reina looked back at me, confident, radiant, alive. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. I smiled. The next day, Emily called, practically vibrating with excitement. Reina, you have no idea what you did last night. Everyone is talking about it. Aunt Claire still can't stop gushing. My stomach twisted. I knew people noticed, but I hadn't expected that level of reaction. My phone buzzed constantly, messages, selfies from friends, even strangers tagging me online. I froze as I realized the dare had turned into something viral, something public. The thrill of secrecy was replaced with the terror of exposure. I tried to retreat, to go back to my quiet life. I changed back into Ryan, packed my hair up, washed off the makeup. But something in me refused to settle. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw Reina's face, vibrant, full of life, eyes sparkling with mischief and courage. It wasn't just a reflection, it was a reminder that part of me had awakened, and I couldn't ignore it. Then came the first real challenge. My coworkers, oblivious to the wedding, started noticing subtle changes. My posture, the way I carried myself, even the faint hint of lip balm I dared wear during lunch. Comments started to trickle in. You seem different lately. Are you feeling okay? Each one felt like a spotlight, and fear began creeping back. I could lie, hide, retreat, but the urge to step further into Reina was stronger than ever. I started experimenting: quietly longer hair, softer clothes, subtle makeup, just enough to feel Reina without anyone fully noticing. One evening, Emily appeared at my door, holding the same ivory dress from the wedding. You can't deny it anymore, she said softly, her eyes studying me. You loved it. I saw it in your face. That night you weren't acting. You were you. My throat tightened. She was right. I hadn't realized it until that moment, but I had felt more alive than I ever had in my life. And yet, fear and doubt collided. But what if people? I can't just... I stumbled over words, unable to articulate the storm inside me. Emily stepped closer. You don't have to explain to anyone yet. But maybe it's time you embraced her more carefully.
Explore this, Ryan.
Explore, Reina. Her encouragement was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at the dress, thinking about how one wedding dare had spiraled into a life-altering revelation. I realized that I wasn't just curious anymore, I was committed. Committed to discovering this part of myself, to embracing a version of me that was brave, visible, and unapologetically alive. Weeks passed, and my secret life as Reina slowly became more deliberate. I practiced walking in heels in my small apartment, learned to style my hair, experiment with subtle fashion. Each small victory, learning how to apply eyeliner evenly, mastering a smile that felt genuine and feminine, felt like reclaiming a part of myself that had been buried for years. Yet every time I left my apartment, fear lingered. What if someone recognized me from the wedding? What if Michael or Emily's family laughed or judged me? Each outing was a delicate dance between thrill and anxiety. Then, the moment of reckoning arrived. A formal family gathering was planned, a charity gala Emily's family was hosting. Emily nudged me, whispering, "You need to come. You're going to meet a lot of people, and you'll see what it's like to be fully Reina in public." My heart raced, but the thought of hiding now seemed impossible. I agreed. The night of the gala, I transformed into Reina completely. The dress, the makeup, the poise, it all clicked. I felt unstoppable. Walking into the grand hall, I noticed whispers, subtle glances, eyes widening in surprise and admiration. For the first time, I realized that this version of me, Reina, was magnetic. People weren't just seeing me, they were noticing me. Emily leaned in as I scanned the room. "See? You're shining." I smiled nervously, but then the unexpected happened. Michael, the fiancé from the wedding, appeared in the crowd, and his eyes locked on me. My chest tightened. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by a long pause. And then the smile. "Ryan? Or Reina?" he asked, almost teasingly. My mind raced. Did he suspect? Did he understand? Before I could answer, Emily jumped in, laughing. "You should see yourself through everyone else's eyes. Reina isn't pretending. She's amazing." Relief washed over me. His eyes weren't judging. They were curious, intrigued, almost respectful. That moment felt monumental, proof that I could be myself, fully, without fear of rejection. As the night unfolded, I realized that the dare had evolved into a journey. One night of play, one night of standing in for Emily, had awakened something profound inside me. I was no longer just Ryan, timid and unnoticed. I was Reina, visible, confident, alive, and authentic. And I knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. Life had opened a door, and I was finally walking through it. In the weeks that followed, Reina became more than just a persona. She became my voice, my courage, my way of interacting with the world. Every smile, every glance, every compliment fueled my confidence. I found friends who embraced me, strangers who admired me, and even family who, slowly, began to understand. Each step forward was a triumph over fear, a victory over doubt, a reclaiming of identity. Looking back now, I understand that one wedding dare didn't just change one night. It changed everything. It challenged me, frightened me, thrilled me, and ultimately revealed who I truly was. I didn't just become Reina for a dare, I became her for life. And in becoming her, I finally discovered a freedom, a joy, and a self-acceptance that I had never known before. Sometimes I still think about that night, that first moment I stepped into the dress, the first time I looked in the mirror and saw someone extraordinary staring back. And I smile because I know it wasn't just a wedding dare. It was a revelation. It was courage disguised as a joke. It was a chance to step fully into myself. And I took it. The weeks after the gala were a whirlwind. Reina had become more than a secret thrill. She had become my reality. I walked differently now, spoke differently, laughed differently. Every mirror, every reflection, every fleeting glance from someone on the street reminded me that I wasn't hiding anymore. And yet, the fear lingered. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being rejected, fear of losing the fragile balance I had built between Ryan and Reina. Then came the unexpected. Emily's mother, Mrs. Parker, invited me over to help with another wedding arrangement. She hinted at needing an assistant, someone with grace, elegance, and a keen eye for detail. I froze. Did she want Reina? Did she want Ryan? Before I could clarify, Emily's teasing voice cut through. "You know she means Reina. Come on, don't chicken out now." My heart thundered. Walking into that house, I fully embraced Reina, slipping into the gown she had prepared, the subtle jewelry, the carefully styled hair. The feeling of stepping into someone else's expectation while fully being myself was exhilarating. Mrs. Parker's eyes softened as she examined me. You know, you truly have a gift. Not just in appearance, but in how you carry yourself. There's something magnetic about you. I felt my cheeks heat, my pulse quicken. Her words weren't just compliments, they were affirmations of something I had long suppressed. Reina wasn't a costume, a game, or a dare anymore. She was a revelation of who I was meant to be. But the challenges weren't over. The more visible I became, the more scrutiny followed. Whispers in cafes, stares at family gatherings, even occasional mocking messages online tested my resolve. Each moment of doubt forced me to confront who I truly was. Could I continue this journey without losing the connections I had as Ryan? Could I navigate a world that sometimes felt unaccepting while staying true to Reina? One day, the ultimate test arrived. Michael, the fiancé from the first wedding, called me unexpectedly. His tone was casual, but I could sense a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Hey, can we talk?" he asked. My chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to retreat, to hide, to go back to Ryan. But something inside me, the Reina inside me, stood tall. I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. He didn't laugh, he didn't judge. He just observed, studied, as if trying to understand the person I had become. "Reina, you're different," he said finally. "Not in a bad way. I mean, you're you. I don't know how to explain it, but you're incredible." Relief and disbelief washed over me. No rejection, no ridicule, just acknowledgement. And in that acknowledgement, I realized something profound. The world could see me, and still, I could be myself. The weeks turned into months. Reina became more than a persona, she became my way of living authentically. I began attending events, assisting with weddings, helping friends, even mentoring someone shy who reminded me of my own beginnings. Each encounter reinforced that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. And then, the moment that changed everything completely. Emily's wedding anniversary. She invited me to co-host a celebration, jokingly calling me the honorary bride. I arrived in a stunning dress, my makeup perfected, every detail meticulously planned. The reactions were instantaneous. Friends, relatives, and even strangers stopped to admire, whisper, and compliment. My heart soared with the realization that I could command attention, admiration, and respect not through bravado, but through authenticity. But the real twist came when I saw Michael again. He approached me quietly, his eyes searching. "Reina, I just want to say, seeing you like this, it's inspiring. You've shown me courage I didn't even know existed. And I think I've learned something about myself, too." My chest tightened. Inspiration, respect, understanding, these weren't things I had expected. And yet here they were, tangible, undeniable. By the end of the evening, I understood fully that one wedding dare had transformed not just my appearance, but my very being. I had stepped into a role for a night, a dare, a joke. And in doing so, I had uncovered a self I had long denied, a self that was brave, radiant, unapologetic, and alive. I realized then that transformation wasn't just about what others saw, it was about how I saw myself, how I chose to step into my own light despite fear, doubt, and expectation. Looking back now, years later, I smile at the memory of that night. That single, reckless dare was the spark that ignited an entire journey of courage, identity, and self-acceptance. It taught me that sometimes the world will dare you, challenge you, push you to the edge, but it's in those moments that you discover who you truly are. And for me, that discovery was Reina. Not just a name, not just a persona, but a life fully, unapologetically, authentically lived. And so, the story that began with a playful dare ended with a revelation. Bravery isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about having the courage to reveal yourself, to embrace the parts of you the world might not understand, and to shine anyway. One wedding dare made me her instead of him, but in doing so, it made me fully, beautifully, unmistakably alive.